I have had this like internal desire to study the moon cycles, understand them, work with them for years. You know, the correlation between our cycles, our female cycles, and moon cycles being so similar is fascinating to me. And I wanted to understand that more. So occasionally, like even if you go back on some of my social media, I have these random posts where like, I'm like, today's a new moon. And I just want to talk about it and share about it. And then I would just die out. I wouldn't like continue on the journey of studying the moon. And I think the takeaway for me right now is, and maybe for you, is that you don't have to know it and understand it to work with it. I think the allowing and the sitting back and noticing is where it's at. I'm still learning about what these moon phases are. And that's also why I wanted to come in and like, let's talk about this. What if timing wasn't random and your body just already knew? I think we are so programmed to operate on a very linear schedule. We've got Monday through Friday, we've got Q1 through Q4, and we have this underlying expectation that things are just gonna like go in this linear fashion. But that's not how nature works. And women feel this, whether, you know, you're actively bleeding or not. We have hormonal cycles. And that's something very interesting, like opposed to men who have a daily hormonal cycle where their cycle quite literally peaks and troughs daily. Ours is not like that. I think it's hard to deny, you know, we have the moon that's on a 29 and a half day cycle. And so is a menstrual cycle on average. Obviously they change, but that doesn't seem coincidental. That seems like a divine creation of nature. That is nature. And that's why I think so many of us women do feel drawn to acknowledge the moon cycles, even if it's just for funsies. In the more recent years, I've been having fun with playing with a full moon and a new moon. I think the new moon was the next addition to my awareness of the moon cycles, right? We all know that there's a full moon, but then I was like, oh, okay, so opposite of the full moon, there's a new moon, which means that's when the moon is dark, right? Because obviously in between those two phases, you know, you see the sliver of the moon or the half of the moon. So suddenly, I knew there was a new moon. I have an amazing friend, Randina, who's been a spiritual guide in my life. She taught me this a long time ago, and I thought this was so fun. So I actually, if you're one of my friends, you've probably done this with me. But on the new moon, I heard it's good to plant seeds. And so what I do once in a while is I take a teeny little piece of paper and I write a couple of things like that I want to come into fruition. Like, what seeds am I planting for myself? And I crumple it up in a little ball, and then I literally plant it in the ground. Sometimes I put it in a plant in my house or like in the yard, in the front yard. I've done this with girls at the salon, and we'll go plant our seeds in the front yard. Just fun. It's an energetic activity to like work with the energy. The more that I dive into this, I realize like there are some energies that are uncannily like the female hormonal cycle. So I'm not an expert on this. I'm just someone who started paying attention. And I thought for my own self and for my girls following along with this podcast or with my journey, let's talk about the 4 phases. There's 4 of them, right? So we talked about the new moon and the full moon, but I'll go deeper into this. So starting with the new moon, this is the beginning. Okay. The seed, like I said, little ritual to do, plant seeds. So what do we do during the new moon? This is where energy turns inward. It's quiet, it's reflective, it's good for setting intentions and not forcing action. This is the phase where some of us might feel lazy. Although I don't even like to use that word. And if we're going to align this with like our hormonal cycle, which again, what I find is interesting is that it doesn't mean that we're always lined up with the moon. I know for a fact that like sometimes I bleed during the full moon and sometimes during the new moon. And I think that's an even deeper, interesting layer to uncover. And maybe we will do that on this journey. But if we're going to think of the moon's phases kind of like our hormonal phases, this is like the bleed. This is where I have also in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years of my life, like I've very much accepted my hormonal cycles. I think it's ridiculous to try to work against them. And I think whether you bleed or not, you're still having cycles in your energy. I think that the new moon phase is the quiet, reflective, and if you are bleeding and you're feeling tired, that is when you should honor your tiredness. And also, I think part of why I loved working with my hormonal cycles so much is it's like, who doesn't want permission to relax and eat more and do whatever makes you feel good. Because if you think about it and you know this about yourself and you know that in 2 weeks you're going to ovulate and you're going to be full bursting with energy and you're not going to be that hungry and you're not going to be that tired, who cares, right? Like, who cares? So this is so fun. This is why it's so fun. And this is why I wanted to talk about it. And I'm following the breadcrumbs. And here we are. Okay, so that's the new moon, right? It's the beginning. It's the quiet. It's planting seeds and setting intentions. Well, on our way to the full moon, and this is a fun thing that I'm just like literally, I'm just now tapping into the phases in between. Right? So theoretically, even though the new moon happens on one day, or at least kind of a day and a half, like it's pronounced that, but there's an energy 7 days surrounding it, a few days leading up and a few days leading out. That's where the energy is. And so going into the next phase is the waxing moon. And I like to think of this like waxing my car. You're waxing it, so you're literally adding something on. You're building, and the waxing moon is the build. So this is when energy starts returning. Ideas want to move, and this is good for starting things, creating, or reaching out. The momentum feels natural here, like the wind is at your back. And so this is pushing you towards your ovulation, your explosion of energy. It's a building energy, which I love. I love building. And I think that, again, not knowing it, I think we're constantly tapping into this energy because it's given to us. This is the energy we're working with. And the more that you notice it, you're like, oh, duh, like this is the time. This is the time. And it's fun to work in cycles because it's like permission. I don't know what it is, but it's permission, and I love it. And I think a lot of what we need to do as human beings is give ourselves permission. I love that. So we're building up, okay? And then we get to the full moon. So the light of the moon is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's waxing, and then we are full. And this is the harvest. Peak energy, visibility, things come to completion or come to light. This is when I'm launching my podcast. And this is again, I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't say, oh, you know what? I have a full moon coming up. I should do something about it. No, it just happened. I'm just sitting here right now and I'm so excited. And you know what? I happen to be in my ovulation energy as well. So I'm synced up. I'm just double synced right now. Again, I don't think there's a right and a wrong to it. And I'm super interested in learning more about that. But like, I'm feeling it. So I'm here and I'm sharing with you. So we got the full moon energy. It's been the full moon since it is technically tomorrow. We are in it right now. We are in it and we're going to be in it for a couple of days. Last of the 4 phases is the waning moon. So it's like a word that we don't use. I don't use, but it's like waning. You know, we're just going to wane backwards now because we got the full illumination and then now we're going to go backwards. This is considered the release. Energy winds down. Good for editing, finishing, letting go of what isn't working. This is actually a super powerful phase, but only if you stop fighting it. That's like the PMS phase, right? Like you're going into your period. Something that I had noticed when I started working with my hormonal energy cycles is that like the bleed part wasn't the hard part. It was always the week before where it's like starving, moody. I know that's why they call it premenstrual. PMS is literally premenstrual, right? So it's like very interesting. This is the waning moon. And another little ritual that I had been taught, and I think it was Randina years ago, that like during the full moon and after that energy of release, you can write down things that you want to get rid of, whether that's bad habits, thought patterns, people, relationships, whatever. You can write down things you want to eliminate in your life and then burn it. And it's so, I don't even know what the word cathartic means, but I think that's where it goes right here, cathartic. It just feels like, I'm just going to burn this away. And I think it's time we think about our own patterns, like seasons where things are being built and then seasons where nothing's moving, but don't be so hard on ourselves about it. We're literally just part of a divine creation and a system, and there's beauty to it and there's reasons for it. And I think just letting go and trusting and feeling it and honoring it makes life so much easier. So here's some takeaways, things that you can do today. I'm not asking you to overhaul your life. I'm just asking you to notice. So pull up a moon phase calendar. They're free. It's on Google. Look at where you are in the cycle right now. Maybe you're listening to this later on. You might be finding this at a different part of the moon cycle. What's going on in your life right now? Something that I think is super fun that I started doing earlier this year, but again, I didn't even have a reason for it. I just wanted to like start building this into my life. I will draw on my calendar like a big black dot, well, a circle filled in for the full moon and a circle, an empty circle on the new moon. I have that on my calendar, and maybe you're feeling it and maybe you're not, and it's okay. But there are 4 seasons that we've declared societally, right? We have summer, fall, winter, spring. All of them feel very similar to the cycles I just described. And right now we just had the summer solstice, and that is peak. That is peak energy. Like I'm tapped into that right now, and I'm so excited about it. And I hope you are too, because we can't peak all the time and there's no reason to. And there's beauty in all of the seasons, in the rest. There's so much beauty in the rest. And that's going to be a whole different episode. You don't have to believe any of this for it to be worth paying attention to. Just follow the breadcrumb. So what if timing of your life isn't behind schedule? It's just seasonal. What if the thing you've been waiting to feel ready for is actually just waiting for you in the right phase? I'm launching on a full moon, and I felt like that was enough permission for me to keep going. And maybe this episode is permission for you to pay attention to your own timing. See you next week.